on the lower intake manifold, the EGR, and the exhaust headers. Alright, let's begin here by unplugging the remainder of the connectors for this wiring harness and kind of getting it out of our way to clean up a little bit of space here. So disconnect the crank position sensor, the cam position sensor up here, and let's see, on the other side, I guess we got the water temperature sensor down here. And there's one keeper here that we can just pry out. There we go. Oh, one more here. There we go. Okay. Okay, now let's free up just a little bit more space by pulling the plug wires and moving them out of here. Alright, now we can get these coolant hoses out of the way. These clamps here, if you squeeze them close enough together, they'll stay in the open position. There, and so we don't lose them, we'll just take these off for now. And you can see what I mean by staying in the open position here. Okay, and with those coolant hoses off, you can see that it gives us good access down in the area here behind the motor. Let's see if I can actually, there, to get to the that O2 sensor and pull that out. Then we can completely remove the wiring harness and get it out of here. Probably not necessary, but I just like to have a clean area to work in. Okay, now with the passenger side O2 sensor disconnected, we should be able to fully remove the wiring harness here. Here on the bulkhead connector, just a 10 mm. Thread that. And then there's a couple of keepers right down here, 2 of them, that just kind of slide into this other harness over here. I've already disconnected those. And now we should be able to get this whole wiring harness out of the way. There we go. Probably free and clear, really cleans up the area and makes it much easier to work. Okay, now let's get this coolant tube off. It's being held on by a fastener here at the rear of the motor, and then it goes around and then it goes into the water pump right here. And so we'll start by taking this fastener off the back. Here's the little keeper for the plug wires. That just goes on to the end of that stud there. And then just an 8 mm you can use to loosen this guy here. Okay, and then the front part of this tube is just held on by this 8 mm bolt here. Pull that out. And then we should be able to work. Oh, no, it hits this EGR stuff, so we'll have to take that off first before we can remove this. Alright, this EGR valve is being held on by 3 8 mm fasteners. Pull that one on that side, and then there's 2 down here. There we go. There we go. Now that should give us enough room to pull this coolant tube up and out. Nope, one more item here. We got the cam position sensor, so let's remove that next. Alright, the cam position sensor here is held on by two 5.5 mm bolts. Okay. And take that off, this little cap. Okay, now we should be able to pull this coolant tube off. There we go. Loose. And we'll remove this one. There we go. There we go. Okay, at last. Okay, now I believe we're ready to take off the lower intake manifold. It's held on by 12 8mm bolts. So we'll just start here and work with it. Okay, that should. Okay, I just completely removed all the bolts holding it in there. And it should sit there. There we go. A little bit of coolant there. There we go. Now we need to turn our attention to the exhaust headers. Typically what I do is go underneath the car, support the mid-pipe, tie it to the drive shaft, and then just disconnect the mid-pipe from the headers. But in this case, I have a leaky transmission dipstick tube that I need to address. So that's going to give me better access if I just remove the mid-pipe completely. So that's what I'm going to do here. So anyway, if you do remove the mid-pipe, don't forget to disconnect your rear O2 sensors and the two front O2 sensors. Remember, we've already disconnected the passenger side O2 sensors from the top. However, I think the driver's side one is easier to address from the bottom side. Since I'm working alone, I like to support the mid-pipe with some pipe stands while I'm disconnecting all the fasteners. Now we can unthread the EGR tube that merges the two sides together. There we go. Now as you can see, we have pretty good access to the header bolts, so we can now start unthreading those. Okay, getting to these header bolts can still be a little tight, so the tool I found that works best is one of these flex head ratchets, 3/8 inch drive, and it's a 13 mm socket, and it just allows you a little more flexibility to get into these tight places and the weird angles that you need to get to these bolts at. But you can get to all of them using this tool here. Okay, I have all the header nuts off, and when trying to pull the header out, it's a very tight fit. These EGR tubes really prevent any kind of motion there to get it out. So it looks like it's necessary to pull off some of these studs to get a little extra clearance. And that is just a 5 mm that will go onto the end of these. And then you should just be able to thread the studs out. And once the studs are out, it should provide adequate room to pull the header off. Okay, it looks like the only stud that really needs to come out to free up enough space in here is this third one back. So I'll just pull that out, and that should provide enough clearance to get the header. And there we go. Okay, on the driver's side, there's much more room to work. The only issue on this side is the oil tube, dipstick tube, will need to be removed first. But once that's out, it looks like it should be fairly straightforward and easy to pull. Okay, the oil dipstick tube is just a single 8 mm bolt right here. The oil dipstick tube does not freely come out the way it is now. I know that if you unbolt the master cylinder here and then just move it ever so slightly to the left side here, that you can finagle this thing out. I'm going to try a different approach first. I'm going to try pulling the valve cover first and then see if we can swing this over and then move it out. It may or may not work, but we'll find out. Okay, the valve cover here is 8 mm bolts. This lower center one here requires a deep socket. And for the remainder of them, we'll use a little bit of a swivel type here to get to these tight spots. Okay. Okay, let's see if we have any better luck with this dipstick tube. Yeah, unfortunately, it doesn't look like that helps. So we'll have to unbolt the master cylinder and move it to the side. Okay, now we've got the master cylinder moved out of the way here a little bit. There we go. Comes right out. Alright, now we can start moving the header bolts here. Okay, now that we have everything out of the way, we can start removing the rocker arms, the push rods, and then start pulling the heads. Alright, that's all the time I have for today, so in the next video we'll go ahead and start pulling the heads. Till then, see you next time.